Hey everybody, welcome to the Protect Jonesborough Podcast. This is episode number 1. I'm your host, Gabriel Wilson, along with my colleague and friend, Aaron Knott. And we are coming at you live from the garage where we've set up shop to keep you informed of all things Protect Jonesborough regarding the BWXT expansion into high purity depleted uranium processing. So if you've been following ProtectJonesborough.com, you already know what's going on, but if this is your first time and this is all new to you, I want to tell you about our website, ProtectJonesborough.com. It has all the information that you need, and it grows, actually. The information is accumulating. So you're going to find reports on there. You're going to find stuff for the public record. You're going to find a basic 30,000-foot view of what is going on in our community here in Washington County and the city of Jonesborough regarding the BWXT proposed expansion. At ProtectJonesborough.com, there's also a petition that we really need you to sign, especially if you're from Washington County or any of the adjacent counties or any downstream counties that could be potentially impacted by BWXT's expansion. After all, they are proposing to rezone the floodplain and build very close, if not right on top of it, which means an accident could really severely impact the floodplain and our water supply. And so anybody who is downstream in Greene County, Cott County, any of the counties that are along the Nolichucky or rely on the Nolichucky watershed for water, you'll want to sign this petition. As of the filming right now, I think we're just shy of 3,900 digital signatures on change.org. And there's also like 250 to 300 signatures on paper for our analog users that are running around on a paper petition. And those are growing every day as well. And so really, really exciting to see such great community support. So go to protectjonesborough.com, sign the petition, and then also, you'll see on protectjonesborough.com a text message group. We started this group to keep people informed. You're going to want to text the word JOIN to 423-374-0800. That's 423-374-0800. We will not spam you with this at all. This is basically just to keep you informed of meetings that we really need you to show up for. So also another way to stay connected is through the Neighbors of BWXT Facebook group. So if you're on Facebook, which a lot of folks are, it's a great group to stay connected. We are blasting stuff through there all the time. Neighbors of BWXT. It's getting close to 2,000 members, and folks are just really active. They're reporting on stuff that they're seeing in the news, talking about other zoning battles with data centers and Bitcoin mines and other things all across the country where the citizens are actually gaining ground and traction in these things. And I think it's really important to join that group so you can stay abreast on what we're doing as well on the events page and all that. So speaking of events, we have some important dates coming up. January 6th is the big one, guys. January 6th, 2026 at the Washington County Justice Center, George P. Janes Justice Center, 108 West Jackson Boulevard in Jonesborough. This is the Washington County Regional Planning Commission meeting. This is the first vote for the zoning. This is the very first vote for the zoning. And so we need everybody to show up. And I would highly recommend, if you don't have a lawn sign, that you get one. Email us at protectjonesborough@gmail.com. Also, reach out to us on the Neighbors of BWXT Facebook group. Let us know you need a sign. There's a few people running around with them that can get you these signs. You can bring those signs. You can make your own posters. Or there's T-shirts, the No HPDU T-shirts, No Uranium Contamination in Our Community. Those shirts are great. They're great for visually taking a stand. Not everybody's going to be able to speak at these meetings, but when the Planning Commission looks out and they see a sea of 100 shirts that are all unified in messaging with posters and all the other things, that tells them, okay, I guess most of the people here are pretty concerned about this, and there leaves no guessing where we stand. So I would encourage you guys to come out on January 6th at the George P. Janes Justice Center, again, 108 West Jackson Boulevard in Jonesborough, and then also save the date for January 26th, which is the Washington County Commission meeting. Now, we don't know if this meeting is going to have the BWXT vote on the agenda. We just don't know yet until the results of the January 6th meeting. But you do need to save that date because currently it is possible that the Washington County Commissioners will weigh in on whatever the results of the January 6th meeting is. So it's very important that you're at both of those meetings, but especially it all starts with January 6th. So please do everything you can in your power to be there. The meeting is at 5 p.m. I will say you'll want to get there early because it's just going to be packed. We're hoping a lot of people show. That'd be great. So now, Just wanted to say just some background on who we are and how in the heck we got here. Again, my name is Gabriel Wilson. This is Aaron Knott, and we started Protect Jonesborough together. We've been friends for 14 years and have worked together actually in the music business mostly. So we're sort of not, we're here by accident in a lot of ways. It all started with a zoning letter that I received in the mail right here, actually. It was the meeting notice, and I saw this black imprint on the back of it, and it said that there was a Washington County Regional Planning Commission meeting on Tuesday, November 4th at 4 p.m. to discuss the BWXT property. And I saw this and I was like, what in the world? So I ran down to the county and talked to a guy named Chris. I want to say Chris Pratt, but I think it's not Chris Pratt. It's some other name that sounds like Pratt. Anyway, Chris P., he's an awesome guy. I was like, Chris, what is this meeting notification about? What does BWXT want to do? He says, well, I don't know what they want to do, but they're looking to rezone to M2, high impact industrial. And I was like, well, what are they going to build? He said, I don't know. I said, is there a site map? Where do they want to build? That's a lot of land. Where are their buildings going? Because I'm adjacent to this lot. Potentially it could be 50 feet from my kids' playhouse, only a couple 100 feet from my back porch. Like, what does this mean for me? And he said, well, they're not required to submit a site plan to get a rezone. They're just going by the rezone first. So I didn't know what was going on. I called Aaron, and I'll tell you, he took it even harder than I did. He was like, what? This is crazy. Like, no site plan, heavy impact industrial? Like, what does this mean? And Aaron did a deep dive and, of course, finds the government contract, govconwire.com, excuse me. Just check it out. BWXT lands a $1.6 billion NNSA contract to build high purity depleted uranium in Tennessee, in Jonesborough. And we're just like, what? So I think all of this was transpiring like the last week of October, just before Halloween. And so, and of course, this is like maybe the Thursday or Friday before the Tuesday, November 4th meeting. And we're just thinking, what in the world? So we got together, made 600 flyers, and me and my kids on an ATV went around, a 1 mile radius of the plant, Paul Revere style, and just warning neighbors, going door to door, giving them letters, going, hey, this is crazy, but speak now or forever hold your peace, because come in 48 hours, I think this was Sunday and Monday before the Tuesday, this is the last chance to really talk about our concerns with the Planning Commission. So I remember driving around, talking to my oldest daughter, just saying, honey, I'm hoping we can get 10 people there in that room with us. Like, we'll have me and mom and all of us in the family, and Aaron's going to come with his wife and kids, and maybe we can get his parents, and maybe we can get grandma. Who can we get at this meeting? Because we gotta voice our concerns. This is crazy. And so we got there. I want to say it was like 3:55 p.m. on Tuesday, November 4th. The meeting was supposed to start at 4 p.m. Like I said, I was hoping that 10 people would show up, and instead it was like 200. Yeah, 200 people came out from the community, all holding our flyers in their hands, and apparently it had gone viral on Facebook. People going, what is this? Have you seen this? Anybody know what this is? And everybody turned out. And as a result, the county attorney came out of this conference room. See, they had booked a conference room at the courthouse that could only hold like 30 to 50 people. They apparently only thought 10 people would show up too. and the county attorney had to close down the meeting because legally the Planning Commission has to be able to hear the concerns of all the people, and all the people have to be able to hear each other's concerns in order for there to be a vote. So that meant that November 4th, the vote was paused. It couldn't happen. And so we're like, whoa, all right, I guess it's going to happen later. How much notice do we get? And the county attorney said, we'll give you 48 hours notice before this meeting. And we're like, what? 48 hours? How are we going to get the word out again? This is crazy. Yeah. So we started, we called my brother, Joe. We're like, Joe, we need a website, quick, protectjonesborough.com. We got to be able to spread the word fast when there's like another vote. And let's start a text message group, and let's start a petition on change.org. Let's try to figure this out and see what we can do to spread the word and get our messaging out. And honestly, it's been incredible, the amount of support that has come through for Protect Jonesborough from the community. We're, like I said earlier, we're up to almost 3,900 digital signatures plus a bunch on paper. We're well over the 4,000 mark. We might be at 5,000 signatures by the time January 6th happens. Who knows? And so, I just want to say we're thankful that the community has rallied like this around this whole cause. And so anyway, fast forward to December 11th, BWXT, because of all the community support for Protect Jonesborough, they wanted to mitigate some fears and concerns, and they decided to hold what we thought was going to be a town hall meeting, but instead it was what's called a poster session or a poster show. I can't remember the exact term. But, a town hall is where there's like a presentation in front of a bunch of people, and then people get to ask questions of the presenter about the presentation, ask hard questions. Everybody gets to hear the question, and they get to hear the answer to the hard question, and you can kind of address everybody's concerns in some ways all at once. In this situation, this was not that. This was kind of a large room, almost like a big hotel conference room, only it was the Jonesborough Visitor Center, big open room with about 10 to 12 poster stations, and each poster kind of defining and outlining a different part of the process of BWXT's build and product, processing, all that stuff. And then there would be a representative at each poster that would answer questions. So, it was like kind of 30 conversations going on at once in a way, and nobody getting to hear each other. And you might have been lucky if you got to question a handful of those poster guys, unless you decided to stick around a long time. And so, while I was grateful, I think you were grateful too, that BWXT did something to just open themselves up for hard questions and try to explain their process. It was a bit of a letdown because there just wasn't that much information, and they would also sort of send us off, I remember Aaron, when I linked up with him, like about an hour into it, he goes, "I've been passed off 3 times, to different guys. Oh, that's not my area of expertise. That would be him over there. He's in charge of that." And, you'd go over there, and then he'd be like, "Oh, that's not me. That would be that guy over there." Even right down to the site manager doing the same thing. So it was kind of a bit of a letdown. So in response to that, we decided to hold a town hall a week later on December 18th in the exact same location, and to do a proper town hall. So neighbors of BWXT, Facebook group, and Protect Jonesborough worked together to organize this event there. And it was awesome. We had Vina Colley from Piketon, Ohio, where this is the plant, the depleted uranium place where the feedstock is coming to Jonesborough if this plant gets approved to make all the HPDU stuff. Like all that stuff is coming from Piketon. And here's this, she's an elderly lady, but she's fought her whole life for the cancer victims there and the kids with birth defects.
She worked for that facility.
Yeah, she did. She worked at Piketon, and she lives there. 107% greater cancer rate in Piketon than anywhere else in the country. Birth defects are off the chart, like kids born without limbs and stuff. I mean, it's just awful what this stuff is doing, and they want to bring that stuff to Jonesborough. So she was an awesome guest. We had Dr. Michael Ketterer, who's a former University of Arizona, I should say he's a retired University of Arizona chemistry professor, and he specializes in environmental impact studies from uranium, plutonium, and radionuclides. So that was amazing just to have Michael Ketterer there on Zoom, zooming in for us. Aaron, my colleague and friend, did a report on this binder. Now, I'll show you this. This is a binder that he gave to all 15 county commissioners, plus the county mayor, Joe Grandy, plus the county attorney and the county clerk, and the Washington County Planning Commission members as well. So all of the people who have any say on this whatsoever got a copy of this zoning and comprehensive plan analysis. And that's what we're going to talk about today on the podcast, is this binder that he prepared of 3 different reports, plus a 4th report that's not in the binder. All of these, again, are available on protectjonesborough.com at the reports tab. So you want to click on that reports tab, and Aaron's going to walk us through this. But he gave basically just a quick 10 to 15 minute dissertation on this zoning and comprehensive plan analysis, and it was brilliant. It just lets people know, hey, according to our viewpoint and his viewpoint specifically on the comprehensive plan and the land, the zoning resolutions for Washington County, this is just a no-go. Not even talking about the merits of high purity depleted uranium or anything. Just looking at the law, the binding law of zoning and the comprehensive plan, it just seems like it should be a no-go. So we're going to talk about that today on the podcast, but he did cover that on the 18th. I will say at December 18th, another guy, Kevin Hendricks, gave a sort of a takedown, you might say, of the poster show from BWXT. Kevin's awesome. We love that guy. And then several other members of our constituency, Joe and JD and Robin and she calls him her secretary, but it's her husband, Jeff, just helping out with all aspects of this town hall. Robin and Jeff actually covered the rent on the visitor center. I mean, it's a very grassroots effort, this whole thing. So anyway, the 18th was great. We did have several county commissioners there. We also had Joe Grandy, the county mayor, there, and it was great. It's just wonderful to see them present, to hear the concerns of the people at the town hall. The room was packed. Every seat was full, plus the sidewalls in the back. The news was there to cover it as well, WJHL and others. So it's been a wonderful outpouring of support from everybody when it comes to this effort. So that leads us to, where we're at currently today, going into the January 6th meeting. And we wanted to equip you guys with information on what the Planning Commission is going to be looking at. They're going to be looking at not BWXT as a company. They're not going to be looking at the ethics of high purity depleted uranium or nuclear weapons or anything. What they're going to be looking at specifically is the merits of zoning this A1 lot, this agricultural land, into high impact industrial. And that's why Aaron chose to spend all of his effort. He's my friend. I've known him for a long time. He's like a massive researcher about anything. He's just a pit bull. He's going to zone in on something, just like focus on it. And he just breaks this down so eloquently. And so I'll turn it over to you, brother.
Awesome.
To walk us through the zoning and comprehensive plan.
Thank you. Appreciate it. The best way to start out is just to read specifically what the zoning resolution says that it is meant to do.
And this is Washington County's zoning resolution.
This is Washington County zoning resolution, which is the resolution is voted upon.
Okay, so it is binding.
So it's binding,
okay.
Yes. All right, so the general purposes of the zoning resolution say, for the purpose of promoting public health, safety, morals, convenience, order, prosperity, and general welfare of Washington County, Tennessee, and to lessen congestion in the streets, to secure safety from fire, flood, panic, and other dangers, to provide adequate light and air, to prevent the overcrowding of land, to avoid undue concentration of population, to facilitate the adequate provisions of transportation, water, sewage, school, parks, and other public requirements, to promote desirable living conditions and the sustained stability of neighborhoods, protecting property against blight and depreciation, securing economy and governmental expenditures, concerning the value of building and encouraging the most appropriate use of land, buildings, and other structures throughout the county, all in accordance with the Land Use Transportation Plan, the Washington County Growth Plan, or Comprehensive Plan. The Board of Commissioners of Washington County, Tennessee, does hereby ordain and enact into law the following articles of and sections. And so when we dig into a little bit deeper into kind of the guidelines of what each zoning is able to do, this right here, sets the stage, but then those also are deciding how these decisions can actually be made.
But that's the way the zoning resolution literally opens with that.
Yeah, this is the
verbatim.
General purpose. That's exactly verbatim at the very beginning how it opens up.
Some things that jump out to me are like, protecting property values from depreciation. Or the panic thing.
The panic one is pretty big. I said this when we were at the town hall where I'm like, I think it's pretty apparent that because we have, now almost 4,000 signatures on the petition, that it's like, that's a pretty indication that people are panicked.
Yeah, for sure.
And just people are just nervous about like, what does this mean for my health? Like seeing these statistics of Piketon where it's 107% higher cancer rate. It's like,
right.
That's not awesome to live under.
Right.
I think that does constitute panic,
right?
As well as property value, of like, how is this going to affect the biggest investment I've made in my life?
Yeah.
How is this going to affect that? Like, what can I possibly lose out of this as well?
And then it specifies appropriate land uses, trying to find the most appropriate land use.
appropriate land use, which I think is a very good rule to follow.
And nothing says appropriate like a uranium factory next to your farm.
Next to your or your house.
That seems totally appropriate.
Yeah.
Right. Awesome. So with BWXT, their initial proposal, I showed this earlier, their initial proposal was to rezone 128 acres. That black footprint there is that mark. Then around beginning to middle of December, another proposal was entered, and you can kind of see this. This is the checkerboarded area is now their area of designation, I think is what they call it. Yes, area of consideration. It's roughly, according to the county, 56 acres, but still wanting to zone that 56 acres M2. That 56 acres currently right now is A1, which is agricultural one. And it also should be said that 40-ish,
from our best guess,
40-ish of those acres are floodplain. This is a floodplain that supplies the water for Jonesborough.
Yeah, the Little Limestone Creek does flow into the Nolichucky, which is where all the water supplies come from.
Right. So again, if you're downstream from Jonesborough on the Nolichucky, you'd likely get your water from the Nolichucky River. And that's where they're proposing a rezoning and potential building, because they haven't given us a site map yet. We don't know where they want to build. They've said, we don't want to build in a floodplain. But that doesn't mean, then why rezone it?
Yeah.
Why rezone the floodplain if you have no intention to build there? Especially you've now amended your zoning resolution to a smaller chunk of land, but you didn't negate the floodplain. So all we're left to believe is that there are some intentions to build something there.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard, from the position of opposition to really take them at anything. And it's not like, I'm not trying to get too bulldog about it, but it's just like, it's really difficult when you won't tell us what you actually want to do.
Right.
Like when you won't give us an example of what you're legally, like a site plan. That's just like, okay, you're obligated by this site plan that once this is rezoned, this is what you can do. But it's like the fact that they don't want to give us that is alarming. And it's just like, how do you expect us to trust you at your word when you won't give us the information we actually need?
That's good.
So
BWXT right now is going to take their A1 land and turn it, they're asking to rezone it M2. So what does that mean according to the zoning resolution?
Well, I mean, I think a good place to start is just looking at the definition that A1 has within the zoning resolution. And sorry, this is long, but it's good.
So you're reading verbatim.
This is verbatim quote from what the Agricultural District the A1 General Agricultural District description. And it says, it is the intent of this district to provide a space for agriculture and agriculturally oriented uses and structures which provide an important part to the economy of Washington County, and at the same time provide space for residential development for an ever-expanding population. It is the intent here to protect the physical and economic well-being of agricultural operations and to prevent the encroachment of urban and other incompatible land uses on farmland. This district is intended to provide a location for urbanization which are compatible with agricultural uses, and is not intended that this district provide a location for a lower standard of residential, commercial, or industrial development that is authorized in other districts.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, seems pretty plain.
I mean, yeah, I guess there's some legal verbiage there that can get a little bit confusing when it talks about a lower standard. But it's definitely clear that A1 is intended to either be agricultural land or residential land for the growing population. But even that residential land then needs to be agriculturally friendly.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it is pretty, convincing when the language does specifically say that it is not intended that this district provide a location for lower standard of industrial development. And it's like, I think it would be more lenient if that language wasn't included.
Right.
But that was specifically put in there for moments like this, that it's like, this isn't the right place for it.
Right. And it should be also said that this land of theirs is surrounded by other agricultural lots, A1 lots, A3 lots, R3, which is high density residential, and R1, which is just like your standard
single family
dwelling home kind of land. So it's not like it's all industrial around it, or there's some parcels of industrial owned by other people and they want to seam all those industrial things together. This is basically one giant farm lot that they want to change to industrial.
Which I think that goes really well into the description. Like before, this took place in June or July. Nobody really knew about it, but the Department of Energy did an environmental assessment, which is not to be confused with an environmental impact study. They're two very different things. And in that, speaking specifically about the Aerojet, now BWXT Aerojet facility, they describe it as rural setting enveloped by farmland and low-density residential developments.
Whoa, that's the DOE.
That's the Department of Energy specifically describing exactly what agricultural is supposed to stay as and not be encroached upon by.
Now, what is M2? So they want to become M2. They want to take their A1 lot to become M2. What does that look like?
So M2, first of all, is the most intense industrial that you can get in Washington County. And here is a little description of that verbatim from the zoning resolution. It is the intent of this district to establish areas which, unless closely regulated, might cause a detrimental effect upon and be injurious to surrounding areas. Sweet. That was not in the quote. This district was created, therefore, to allow for heavy type industries and uses, noise, odor, dust, and other objectionable conditions.
Wow.
Yeah, it kind of goes against A1.
Yeah, it's kind of like this could suck for the people around you.
Yeah, and could be very damaging to the surrounding property.
And lower your quality of life.
Yeah, which specifically, it's like, dust, odors, and noise. But then you go back to the very beginning, and it's like, it talks about the general welfare. Oh, and to provide adequate light and air. Hey, that's awesome. I don't think ridiculous amounts of dust or air pollution qualifies as adequate air.
100%. So with this zoning resolution, this is what the Washington County Regional Planning Commission is going to be voting on January 6th.
Yeah.
So they're also going to be looking at, is anybody opposed to this? And I remember reading in your report somewhere that one of the prerequisites for zoning in and of itself was that the public was willing to participate in the zoning.
This is in the Washington County Land Use and Transportation Plan, which is like the comprehensive plan. And the exact quote is, policies and goals must be tempered within the parameters of what is possible given the restraints of budget and the environment and public's willingness to participate.
So the budget, the environment, and the public saying, we're cool with this.
Yeah, and I think the environment and public's willingness are really the two big ones that stand out here.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I'm like, just according to the petition, the people showing up at the original meeting, it's like, well, obviously there's a big, going back to the original, it's like, you've caused panic. People are scared of the well-being of their homes and their health. The value of their homes and their property. And so it's like, I feel like the public's willingness to participate is pretty strong and clear, meaning we don't want this. Like, it's too many unknowns. Like, there's only one specific large company that grows to benefit from this, like, as a whole, while everybody else around this seems to suffer and feel the consequences and have don't know what the future looks like.
Yeah. It's very vague.
Very vague, yeah.
And the history of facilities like this is not good. For instance, the Piketon one and others, which we can talk about on another show. But there's a reason why people are afraid of this. It's a very new process. HPDU, which is high purity depleted uranium, has not been processed in the United States. At least we're not experts. We are learning as fast as we can, and we're always going to do our best to say things that we believe are factual. But to our current understanding right now, as of today, HPDU has not been processed in America since the Carter administration put it on pause, except for in 2021, under the Biden administration, there was a bench test done here at Aerojet in Jonesborough, Tennessee, to see if high purity depleted uranium could be processed here using their metallurgy labs or whatever. That and that's a whole other thing that we can talk about. But the point is it was done as a pilot program, a bench test that's been documented. And then based off that, the courtship with BWXT began. And now BWXT assumed ownership of Aerojet as of January 2025, to our knowledge. So you're talking about, and even BWXT's press releases have said this is a brand new process for HPDU. They're touting it as a very safe one. However, we just have no idea. There's not been more than a pilot run, a bench test of this. To do it at this kind of scale, 300 metric tons of HPDU annually is just never been done in America. So we don't know what the environmental impacts will be. And that's why a lot of folks are in panic because they just aren't sure what this means for the neighborhood.
Yeah, and because all we have to look at is history. And you look at all these other facilities that historically have dealt with uranium, at depleted uranium or enriched uranium, all of these things. And it's difficult to find places that are not contaminated, long-term contamination that requires remediation to get that out of it. It's really hard to find places that haven't had that.
Exactly.
And so that's why that brings in full picture of just like the floodplain issue and just the effect on people around us and where the panic is coming from, because it's just like, look, you're not telling us exactly what's happening, but also all we have to look at is history, and history doesn't look very well.
Yeah. I've said it before. This is literally if they were to let this happen, if our county was to let this happen, this would be our commissioners saying, you know what? We're going to bet the entire community that this is the first time that this isn't going to end up in a total disaster. And that just seems like a very risky bet.
Especially with Jonesborough.
Yeah.
Like the oldest city, is it the oldest town or city in Tennessee?
It's the oldest city in Tennessee.
Yeah. And it's just like...
county seat of Washington County.
Yeah. It's like, that seems like a big gamble for something that's just right down the road.
It's really true. And only a mile from the high school.
Yeah.
And built in a floodplain that supplies your water. It just seems like a recipe for catastrophe.
Yeah.
So BWXT is surrounded by A1, A3, R1 and R3. So tell me about the R1 zone and the R3 zone.
Yeah, the R1 specifically, going back to the right from the book itself, says the requirements for this district are designed to protect essential characteristics and provide an environment for family life.
Like a uranium factory in your backyard. That's a very good, very good environment for family
life. That's sarcasm. And then it goes on to say, it is necessary to set higher standards for these related uses because they generate more traffic. Well, again, this part specifically is actually talking about like you can build a church in an R1. But so after you say that, and then it comes to this, but it is necessary for uses that are not houses in this environment to have much higher regulations, like very strict regulations on these, because they generate more traffic than a single-family residence would use, and that would be detrimental to the residential neighborhood if they were not required to meet the minimum standards.
Gotcha.
Meaning, it's like if they put strict regulations on a church in that district, should probably be a lot more strict for a chemical factory or a metallurgy facility.
When you got to understand too, like the processing for this is tons of toxic waste that gets shipped out and tons of highly hazardous materials that get shipped in on 2-lane county roads that are really narrow, right past our high school. I mean, golly, I just like the worst thing that could happen is a toxic waste accident right in front of a high school.
Yeah,
it's
and
crazy.
I think one of the good designations to talk about as well, it specifically says, and this is verbatim, that these M2 zones are meant to be next to highway systems.
Right.
Make sure there's ample electricity, water, all this kind of stuff. And it's like there's no highway system that gets out there.
Right.
And it's like, to my knowledge, I'm like, I don't know of any good way to get from a highway down to there with a truck like that. That's going to be carrying nasty chemicals.
Yeah. Tell me about the R3 zone. What is it?
R3 zone One of the purposes of this district is to create adequate standard of residential development in order to prevent the reoccurrence of unhealthy housing conditions, which have long been a major problem.
So unhealthy housing conditions.
Yeah.
Also, is anybody else seeing the irony in this?
Also goes on to say, provide adequate sunlight, air, and usable open space for dwellings.
Right, next to the uranium factory.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just like, what bad movie plot is this from the 90s? It's like Aaron Brockovich, the sequel, or something, where they decide to plop a uranium factory next to the high school, in the water supply, next to high-density residential housing. It's kind of laughable.
Yeah.
I saw a meme the other day that JD posted, and it said, imagine defending a uranium factory, a uranium processing facility next to schools, farms, homes, and in your water supply, and thinking that you're the logical one. It's like, it's just really funny.
Yeah, I think that's a big talking point too, where it's just like, even if a regulations allow something, it's like, when does common sense come into the conversation? Like, at what point are we just going to be like, yeah, I mean, maybe you could, like, even if the zoning laws were like, yeah, they can do all of this stuff. It's like, but should you?
Right.
I think that's one good thing that I try to live my life by. That's like, just because I can doesn't mean I should. And it ends up looking like a very large gamble to like within the floodplain to be like, hey, we're looking at this facility here, we're under the expectation that they're never going to have a problem. But putting that into a floodplain is like, well, facilities have problems all the time. There's very well documented history that all over the place that there are problems that occur at manufacturing facilities, even with heavy duty chemicals. And so it's like,
and those problems happen with stringent regulations.
Yeah, with stringent regulations
because
in
accidents
place.
happen.
Because accidents happen.
Right.
So it's like, even if you can do this, it's like, but that's a big gamble. It's like, that is the water supply for a huge chunk of Tennessee.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into your floodplain report. This is just a natural segue. We were going to hit this last, but let's just talk about it. There were some gnarly accidents that happened. Talk to us about the one that happened in West Virginia where 300,000 people were without drinking water.
Yeah, it's wild. It was the Elk River chemical spill, and here's a basic summary of what happened. It said a single above-ground storage tank at the Freedom Industries facility leaked through thousands of gallons of MCHM into the Elk River. This was not a routine discharge that was planned to happen, nor was it under permitted operations. It was a failure involving the storage infrastructure just not operating properly. And what ended up happening is that instantly, as soon as they found out about the water, they had to tell everybody, like, you cannot drink this water. And it was approximately 300,000 residents across multiple counties were placed in a do not use water advisory. Water could not be used for drinking, cooking, bathing. Schools, hospitals, and businesses closed or altered operations, and service disruptions lasted days to weeks, depending on the location they were to the system flushing.
That's insane.
It's an absolute insanity. And it's like, when thinking about, facilities like this, it's like, it doesn't matter what you're allowed to do. You always have to plan for the worst case.
Right. Because
that's the only way you can properly handle a situation if it happens. Like, if you don't think about what's going to happen, then how do you plan for it? I mean, take a good look at East Palestine, the train crash. It's like, it came down to being like a faulty bearing on the train that caused a train crash or whatever, derailment. But it's like, that wasn't planned. They didn't plan in that location how to deal with this, because from my knowledge, the products weren't meant to go to that location. So they didn't even plan it. It was just happened in transit. And so it's like, if we are now starting to have to think of, like, even if these chemicals go through our counties, we have to start thinking about them.
Right.
Then how much more do we have to think about where a facility goes? Where it's just like, yes, according to TDEC, so the Little Limestone Creek is on a list. I think it's called the 303 D list, and that is a list of rivers, springs, all this kind of stuff, waterways that they're polluted enough to where you're no longer allowed to pollute any more beyond what the permit allows of a specific chemical, meaning it's essentially on a danger list.
It's like a protected stream.
It's a protected stream in essence, because it's like, well, we need to slow things down because we've kind of gone too far. And Little Limestone Creek is not the only creek in Tennessee that has that. There's plenty of them, which is very sad. But Little Limestone is one of those. So having that in thought already, that it's like this whole water system has taken a beating, with accidents being very prevalent in this industry, in Tennessee even, then it's like, why risk it?
Yeah.
Like, if something spilled into that waterway, it's like, how long would nobody be able to drink water? Like, and I mean, I think after Helene is a really good indication. It's like not just flooding, but all the other things that happen from flooding. Yeah. So it's like, what if like power systems get taken out, and because of that, I don't know, backup generators also taken out, and then safety systems begin to fail. It's right. Like there's that as well, but it's also just the everyday. Like, what if someone doesn't actually hook a connector to a truck properly when they're transferring chemicals?
Which happened in Korea.
Which happened in Korea with hydrogen fluoride, which is one of the main chemicals that they're using.
At BWXT?
Yeah, for the HPDU.
Really?
Yeah, the hydrogen fluoride is one of the main chemicals. I am not a chemist, so I'm not going to be act like I'm a chemist, but it's nasty stuff. If you want, you can look it up and just see what it's all about. But they're going to be bringing a lot of it here. And there was an incident in 2012 in Korea, and it was, the leak caused by human error during unloading of a tanker truck, killing 5 workers on site, injuring dozens, and affecting over 12,000 residents with health complaints.
Wow.
Causing extensive environmental damage, including necrosis, which I think is just complete death, of vegetation, of over 212 to 240 hectares. I don't know what that.
Hectares.
It's a
wow,
lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and so it's like, I mean, these are really, like, this happened. It's like, we should probably consider this.
Yeah. And again, so when we're talking to BWXT at the poster show, they're like, hey, we're not putting any more water. Like, we're not putting any discharge into Little Limestone Creek. Everything we're doing is airborne. You know, that's comforting. But anyway,
we're airborne and taken off site.
Right. And so they're thinking to themselves, and they're saying to the public, we're not putting anything into the water supply. But your floodplain report and what you're describing right now isn't about what they're putting into the floodplain. It's about the location of nasty things next to a floodplain.
They're not allowed to put in the floodplain.
And what could go wrong.
Yeah.
And if an accident happens.
Exactly. And it's like being able to plan ahead to know that, like, you know, there are other facilities that have insane amount of safety procedures put in place, but it's like they're not over a water supply. It's just not about what they're putting into it. Like, they're already putting into it. They're not allowed to put any more into it of what they're doing right now. It's specifically that it's just like accidents happen. Yeah. Accidents at this facility and accidents at other facilities like it have happened in the past. Lots of them. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, why does all of a sudden that disappear when we start talking about this stuff? It just doesn't fit the common sense, hit the common sense meter, I should say.
Agreed. So BWXT, let's say that the zoning goes through, and they're, hopefully this doesn't happen, but just painting a zoning scenario where their zoning request is approved. Now they have 56 acres, but then all of a sudden an environmental impact study is done based off the new facility and all the things, and they find out they're actually not allowed to build in a floodplain, and they're not allowed to actually do anything on this land because it just doesn't work environmentally. Yeah. Now we have a giant M2 zone in the middle of Jonesborough farmland, in a place that an industrial zone was never intended to be in the first place. So what does that mean for us?
Well, I mean, that's the danger. Like, I mean, at the town hall, talking to the commissioners and the mayor and everybody else that was there, it was like, this facility should be considered as if it was multiple companies coming in and doing this.
Why is that?
Because it's like, if once zoning is zoned, you can't undo it. And so it lives with the land, not with the company.
Oh.
And so if at some point they decide, oh, well, we can't do this, or whatever for some reason, or we decided logistics makes sense to put this facility in another location. Now that's M2. It's like they could sell that off and sell it to a bunch of companies.
Like literally subdivide it
for the most intense industrial zoning in Washington County. And so at that point, it's like, well, it doesn't really matter what BWXT wants to do with the property. It's like you have to view this as not because these people really want to do it. It's that this is just incompatible with everything around here, because it's like that industrial park does not need to be here. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Let's pretend I don't know anything about this, and I just go, well, how does a county make industrial land in the first place? Like, what's the normal procedure? You're talking about how this is an unplanned industrial zone. Are these things normally planned?
I mean, that's what the comprehensive plan is supposed to do.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, there's a large historical background. They call it Euclidean zoning.
Where's that come from?
And that comes from the village of Euclid in Ohio. I think it was right out of Cincinnati, or something like that, where it was like the first city that decided, you know what, like, we are going to put zones within our city of how we can manage where growth happens and all this kind of stuff. There's large dispute. There's lots of history about it. You can look it up. There's much better people to explain how the dispute worked, but it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court basically said that it's like, no, like, you cannot infringe upon people's, well, the specific quote that they use is like, this is like putting a pig in the parlor instead of the barn. Okay. In essence of like, you're mixing things in places that should not go where they should go. Like, you shouldn't do that. And then there was another historical Supreme Court hearing, same thing, where they're like, it was the Supreme Court saying like, you can't mix these two completely incompatible zonings, like, just frivolously. And like the kind of like what the zoning ended up doing was they ended up replacing what was previously nuisance law. And nuisance law was like, you can do whatever you want with your land as long as you don't just cause a lot of problems for everybody around you. But what they were finding, and what Euclid was finding, was that like the problem with that is that you couldn't do anything until damage started to be done.
Under nuisance law.
Under nuisance law. And so they decided to start putting the zoning laws in place, and the Supreme Court ruling allowed them to uphold that, which is now everywhere in America. Is the whole point of zoning was to take care of problems before damage was done.
Right.
And so it's just getting before the problems so that you don't have just a massive mess and lawsuits, all this kind of stuff, just stopping the process of everything, and that you could just take care of things before anything bad happens.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so this is why zoning exists.
This is why it exists. This is why comprehensive plans exist, because it's like I don't remember specifically, it's like Tennessee passed a law, and well, there's a federal bill that passed, meaning need to put a comprehensive plan in place to decide like, what are you guys going to do with your property? Because we're running into a lot of problems that really shouldn't have to be problems. And so that was the point where they're like, okay, everybody needs a comprehensive plan. And then counties started voting in zoning resolutions to then dictate how that plan was implemented.
And I've said this to you before. When we look at a property to purchase, I'm looking at the zoning around that property. So, this property that we're on right now is R3. I don't know why. It's a farm. Like, that's what we bought. There's one house and a farm, but it's nice because I can build houses for my children on this land. We bought it for that reason, knowing that we're allowed to build homes for our kids, and there's nothing in our zoning that says we can't do that. And then I can look at the neighboring zones, and I can say, okay, well, right now Aerojet is about half mile, maybe 3/4 of a mile as the crow flies to their current facility. I'm not super worried about that because between them and me is a huge swath of A1, and I can look at the comprehensive plan and see that A1 is not designated or designed to be anything except agricultural or agriculturally friendly residential. So I go, okay, I know my neighbors are going to be either that housing development over there, or maybe housing happens in that A1 land eventually, but I don't have to worry about a high purity depleted uranium processing facility in my backyard, according to the comprehensive plan. So I'm comfortable now investing in this farm. I'm comfortable now building homes for my family, right? That's kind of the nature.
That's the nature of it.
And then also, if you're an industrial company, you look at the surrounding zones and you say, I don't have to worry about some neighbor complaining because I'm building on an M2 lot and I'm next to another M2 lot.
Not to mention I have highways to get my product into my facility and all those kinds of things as well.
I think this just comes up to like, it's been a mantra throughout this process, over the last couple of months. We're not against BWXT. We're not necessarily even against the work that they want to do. We just think this is a very, very unwise location for this work. You have to put this, Dr. Michael Ketterer said it at our town hall. I would put this, he said, 5 miles from the nearest house. You want that kind of impact zone, to be free of residents and free of a high school and free of a water supply. Like this, the potential impact is kind of gnarly,
Yeah, and I think another impact that we need to talk about is the fire department.
Right.
The fire department, I don't know the specifics on exactly when it changes, but the fire department that's supposed to be over this facility is
the Limestone Volunteer Fire Department.
Volunteer Fire Department. It's like this is nothing against the firefighters.
No.
It's like they don't have a budget to deal with that kind of stuff. They don't have the proper equipment to deal with hydrogen fluoride spill or whatever, all the other chemicals or radioactive material, uranium, or what if drums of their feedstock you get punctured and cause problems. They're not ready for that. And it's not no knock on them. It's just that it's not the zone. It shouldn't be zoned in their zone or their whatever influence zone.
Yeah. This should not be handled by a volunteer fire department. Now, also in your preamble of the zoning resolution you talked about diminishing property values.
Yes.
So one question I know that we've been thrown around is what does it look like for a county to have the property values around something like this decline? And then what does that do to tax revenue?
One of the reports that I gave out had to do specifically with that. I just wanted to start going down the rabbit hole of this can have an effect on the property value around here, purely even just from a stigma of what the facility starts to present the county as and present the area as. And the numbers, I would just say I looked through a insane amount of documentation specifically that was done on facilities around dirty manufacturing that dealt with nuclear stuff, and of how that affects property around them, as well as how it affects property like Superfund sites as they start getting cleaned up, and just showing when property values start coming up and when property value starts dropping of all these locations, what these facilities can play into. And it was incredibly terrifying looking at it, being a property owner that's within the 1 mile radius of the facility, that it was the agricultural and potential could be a 10 to 25% potential drop. And
in value.
Wow. Which is insane. And obviously that's a sliding scale dependent on stigma and what's happening, but that's terrifying. Because at that point
that's
it's
crazy.
It's just if I spent $100,000 of my hard-earned money and all of a sudden within a year 25% of that is gone.
Yeah.
That doesn't, I think that's kind of where I would connect it back to the beginning of the zoning resolution, that it's just for the general welfare and to protect property against blight and depreciation.
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, for sure.
So running a bunch of numbers and going through multiple tiers of radiuses around the facility, the numbers end up coming around to a total annual property tax loss value. So this is tax loss, not
it's revenue lost. For the county.
So it's revenue loss for the county, but it's realize that these numbers are much smaller than the amount of wealth in the area lost. Because it was the way that our property taxes work in Washington County, it's a countywide median home assessment value of 25%, meaning we pay taxes on 25% of the value of our house.
Okay, gotcha.
And so the number starts getting really small compared to the actual value.
Yeah. So if you have a $500,000 house that's close to this plant, which is maybe, $400,000 to $500,000 seems reasonable for a lot of the houses around here. You're looking at potentially that house dropping 25% in value, $125,000 in value, right? So that would be, now your $500,000 house is $375,000 worth of value.
Yeah. So right here, I got a $390,000 house where it's like a 10% decline is now this house is worth $351,000. And that is a lost assessed value for the assessment for your taxes of almost $10,000.
Gotcha.
Meaning that's $137 per home that the county is losing in revenue. Go up to the 25%, and it's like, well, now your value of your house is, instead of $190,000, is $292,000, and that ends up putting it up to now a $343 loss per home in Washington County.
And what does that do
within the radius?
So
accumulatively, that ends up to being taking out. Since there's multi-tiered radiuses that they lessen the further you get out the radius, but that could come out to being up to $800 to $2.2 million per year just in revenue, or just in residential property tax income for the county, which is insane.
Not counting commercial or industrial.
Not counting commercial or industrial.
Whoa.
And then the 20-year cumulative loss could be around $16 to $44 million in lost revenue, which is just is crazy to think, because it's like, well, any impact of benefits that could possibly be brought into the county is obviously going to be outweighed by loss in tax revenue for the county.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, yeah, it doesn't quite compute.
So you also did a report number 2 on spot zoning. Do you want to talk about what spot zoning is and why this might apply?
Yeah, I mean, spot zoning is rezoning a particular parcel or piece of property to something that is not compatible with anything else surrounding, hence spot zoning. That it's just kind of one spot in the middle of a sea of other stuff.
Like an M2 amidst incompatible land uses, like a heavy industrial. Yeah.
Gotcha. And there's a lot of legal examples, even within Tennessee, where courts have overturned zonings in specific areas for specific reasons. And it usually comes down to the benefit of the community is one of the specific parts of it, that it's like, it needs to be for the benefit of the public, of the community, that this spot zoning should go through.
So like, for instance, if they're going to put a high school back here,
exactly,
that would be something, or a library.
Yeah.
That would be the benefit of the community.
Because it benefits the community, adds new features and all that kind of stuff, and obviously bring schools closer to communities,
right,
and stuff like that. But like, obviously in this situation, there is no benefit to the community.
So it only benefits BWXT.
Exactly. And that's one of the other notes, is that one, it has to benefit the greater community around them. But then two, it's only benefiting one private party. Like, they are getting a lot out of this exchange, where the community around them gets very little.
Gets nothing.
Gets literally nothing. Actually gets worse.
Yeah, it gets the short of the stick.
because even if everything went perfect, no benefit comes to the neighbors.
Right.
Like, even in it's perfect, it's like there's absolutely no benefit, except for like, even in its most perfect state, now you get possibly bad smells, lots of noise, lots of dust, just bad air quality, and and that's when it's running at its finest. And so really, I mean, if you view it from that simple perspective, it's like, well, only one entity is coming out on top of this exchange.
And that's BWXT.
That's BWXT.
Gotcha. Man, this has been so good. I love this report. And remember, everybody, this report, reports 1, 2, 3, and the floodplain report, which is report 4. They are available at protectjonesborough.com. The tab that says reports, just click on that at the top of the page, and you can get these reports right now. If this podcast is live, those are live. And remember, everyone, we need you to be at the January 6th meeting, the Regional Planning Commission, as they vote on this rezone. And everything we've talked about is pertinent information to them. And we highly encourage you to do your own research. Don't be ashamed to use Google. Don't be ashamed to use encyclopedias, calculators, whatever you need, even ChatGPT if you got to. Watch out, though.
It'll lie to you.
It'll lie to you a little bit.
Be careful.
You can't trust the robots fully. But do your own research and find out about this. Get educated on the difference between what Aerojet was doing and what BWXT wants to do with the Aerojet facility they've acquired, and come to the meeting prepared to share your heart, your concerns with the county officials. I want to say this and be abundantly clear about this. Our county commissioners are awesome. Our mayor is awesome. They're actually really good people. They love this community. The mayor is not a volunteer, but all the commissioners are. They volunteer their time, which I think is really impressive that they give that much time for like a little bit of a per diem that they get for a meeting or whatever. But to carry that stressful load and to weigh in on a decision as massive as this, you've said it before and I've said it before, this is a generational decision that they'll make. Whatever, if they vote yes on this especially, it will impact Washington County and the city of Jonesborough for generations. And we see that in previous HPDU facilities where generations later are cleaning up the mess from the previous. So I think that they are really looking at this intently. They're weighing our concerns. We're doing our civic duty. All of us are, who are voicing our concerns to our commissioners, and they rely on that. They don't have... This is not their full-time job. They don't have a full-time, salary to go and just do deep dives on this stuff. They rely on us as citizens to keep them informed of our concerns. And we will do that. We will be kind, but we'll also be resolute and just say, man, this is not good. We're driving off a cliff if we do this. And we're not afraid to say it. So be sure to write your commissioners. Be sure to come to the meeting on January 6th. Remember, lawn signs, t-shirts, make your own posters, be visibly take a stance. Don't be afraid to, obviously at that meeting be respectful, but show them how you feel through what you wear and what you bring. And we look forward to seeing you guys on January 6th at that meeting, and we will do a podcast to follow up on that meeting with the results and what it means for us at Protect Jonesborough and for our community. Take care. Thanks for listening. God bless you guys. We'll see you soon.